Hello and welcome to the big picture. The much-awaited expansion of the Union Council of Ministers has taken place. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chose to include 19 members into his Council of Ministers, all in the Ministers of State rank, while promoting Prakash Javadekar from Minister of State with independent charge to a cabinet minister. 5 ministers of state have been dropped. Modi now heads a 77-strong Council of Ministers, which including him makes it 78. This is one of the largest ministries comparable to UPA-2 in size. So what does this expansion mean? What kind of signals is the Prime Minister trying to send? How does this large size of his ministry gel with the slogan of maximum governance, minimum government? Does this expansion indicate full utilization of the available talent? We will discuss all this today with Vinod Sharma, Political Editor, Hindustan Times, Monu Nalapat, Political Analyst and Senior Journalist, Navin Upadhyay, Political Editor, The Pioneer, and Smita Gupta, Associate Editor, The Hindu. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Nalapat, how do you look at this expansion? Why only ministers of state?
Well, it's very, very clear, Girish, that there was no pressure from the BJP party, there was no pressure from the RSS, there was no pressure from the parliamentary party. This entire exercise has been conducted in a manner which makes it absolutely clear that Narendra Modi has as much control over his party as Indira Gandhi had over her party during her heyday. So I think what this exercise demonstrates, the timing was decided by the Prime Minister, the selection was decided by Prime Minister, who was to be dropped.
Only the Prime Minister?
In my view, yes, and also the choice of portfolios in my view.
What about
also.
the party president?
Well, the party president is a loyal associate of the Prime Minister. So as I said clearly, one thing is very clear from all this, that now Narendra Modi is in complete and effective control of his party and his government.
Vinod, would you agree with that?
Well, where was the doubt about it ever? So I don't think the Prime Minister needed to reiterate that he is in control of the party. He has been in control of the party. He is the Prime Minister of a government where the foremost party has a majority of its own. Now, surely this exercise has been undertaken. It is not there is a method. If it is madness, if it is merely just an assertion of authority, there is a clear method to it. And I find it to be an affirmative action reshuffle or expansion. It's not a reshuffle.
It's an expansion.
It's a minor initiative, because a reshuffle entails big ticket ministries, be both economic and political. None of these have been touched. The Prime Minister has broken free of his own cut-off age of 75 and allowed Mr. Kalraj Mishra to continue as minister,
and also
Najma Heptullah. Now, if the Prime Minister, as Monu Nalapat sir says, was really his own stamp, so surely he has used a different stamp this time, and that stamp is more in tune with the political objectives of the BJP in the forthcoming elections.
Would you say
because Kalraj Mishra, according to me, has not been changed because he's a Brahmin face from Uttar Pradesh.
Vinod, would you say he's become more pragmatic?
No, I would say that he's, you can call it pragmatic, you can call it a move that is expedient, depending on what's your view of the reshuffle. But I think that, of course, every politician is pragmatic. He can't but not be pragmatic. But in this case, he's removed 2 people from Rajasthan who are perceived to be close to Vasundhara. One was an early embarrassment for the party because he had a rape charge against him. And the another is not keeping well, one is told, But the fact remains that this reshuffle is aimed at giving accommodation to 2 prominent Patel leaders from Gujarat, to give accommodation to people who were earlier left out of the scheme of things of the Prime Minister, namely Mr. S.S. Ahluwalia, Mr. M.J. Akbar and Mr. Vijay Goyal. Now, if what Monu sir says, if it is right that the first reshuffle was not entirely Prime Minister in that case, because if these 3 people didn't get it, there were good reasons, there were some reasons for that. And it will be interesting to probe those reasons. I don't want to go into the details of those reasons.
We'll not go into that. Navin? what was the compulsion for him to go for this kind of a reshuffle? This kind, I'm telling you, because he has inducted only ministers of state, nobody in the cabinet rank. What is he trying to achieve?
I mean, this is very obvious, you know. I mean, this is nothing to do with performance, or this is nothing to do with. I mean, yesterday, Prime Minister talked to some journalists, and today newspapers have published that it is to do with, you know, carrying out what the promises BJP had made in its manifesto and its other agenda. But I think it is only a political exercise and nothing but a political exercise. It is aimed at UP election, it is aimed at Uttarakhand election, to a certain extent Punjab, and consolidating parties' base among caste. You know, if you look at this composition of the expansion, you will see that BJP has tried to reach out to Dalits in a very big way.
Yes.
There are 5 Dalits, you have tribals, 2 tribals, you have Brahmins. So, you know, and you have first time you have a cabinet.
He has also sacked 2 Dalits.
There was
He has
but
also
you know,
sacked 2
this is the
SCs.
first time BJP has a cabinet where you have 3 Muslim ministers. So you are trying to send a message across that we are a pan-India party which is going to somehow eat into the Congress vote bank.
3 Muslim ministers, all from Rajya Sabha.
Yeah.
There is some
because
suggestion.
nobody
And Shahnawaz Hussain is out.
Yes,
You couldn't get him into Rajya Sabha.
But
and-
you know,
No, but there is some suggestion.
symbolically also, if you look at
Navin,
it.
there is some suggestion that this entire exercise has been done to cater to the election-oriented states.
Yeah,
Does it look like that?
It is not only aimed at UP election and Punjab and Uttarakhand, but I think the larger picture is this is also aimed at 2019 election. The BJP is always in election mode, and I think, you know, this is an exercise where you are trying to expand your base among different castes. And I think another thing which you will see by evening or tomorrow, which will be very politically significant, whether this crusade which Subramaniam Swamy had started against the finance minister, I think this will also find its reflection, whether Mr. Jaitley is finally able to retain his information and broadcasting ministry. I think that will also have a very important message.
Okay, that's very interesting. Smita, we still don't know what are the portfolios, how the portfolios are going to be allocated to all these ministers. Do you expect any major change in reshuffle in the portfolios at least?
Beyond what Navin just mentioned, the INB ministry, people have been saying that it might go elsewhere, but I don't see finance, defense, external affairs, home, those will remain. I don't think Mr. Modi wants to unsettle his senior most colleagues. I think the whole objective was to cater to a wider constituency, not only in the country, but within his own party. So you have this huge council of ministers. So many more people in his party are also happy with him. But of course, I mean, the fact that Mr. Modi is in total control, that is very obvious. But I would add that Mr. Amit Shah and he did it together. And the primary objective is, as has been in the past, elections, the election-bound states. I mean, what is disappointing is that we've not seen anything in this, in the changes that have been made, that hold out any promise for any dramatic change or in governance or in economic reforms or, any of those things, the economic miracle that we had been promised. So we don't see any change in that. But then obviously to do that, Mr. Modi would have had to change some of his senior ministers, which despite the fact that he is so strong, he has not done, either because he doesn't have any other choices to make and he doesn't want to bring in any technocrats, or he doesn't want to unsettle his senior colleagues.
Mr. Nalapat, would you agree with that? According to you, and everybody agrees that he's the strongest prime minister we have had for a long time. He's complete control over party, the government, but still he hasn't gone in for the kind of changes which many people expected him to do.
See, I'd like to say that, when we talk of minimum government, it doesn't really mean the number of ministers. It means the number of procedures and processes. So in case procedures are shortened, processes are shortened, for example, this up and down movement of files, if that is brought down, you still have minimum government, even if you may have 99 ministers. Now, so far as Prime Minister Modi is concerned, in 2014 November, he had no idea of the functioning of the central government. He was never a part of central government. obviously he had to defer to colleagues who were in the central government at various, who were in parliament at various times. But today, at the end of 2 years, he has understood very clearly the game in Delhi, the governance game, the game within the bureaucracy, the game within the political process in Delhi. And in that sense, I would say he is now liberated from any kind of, from let us say, from the need to rely on individuals. I think the final decision on this will very much be himself. And in my view, I would say, after this 2 years of a so-called on-the-job training, my views are going to see a very quick acceleration of economic policies and economic change in year 3 and year 4 of Modi.
These 19 ministers, what Navin says, or everybody agrees that it's a very political expansion which has been done. But what is the kind of talent which these people bring in?
Well, the question is, if you look at Gujarat, and if you look at now Mr. Modi's here, the question is, what are the ministers expected to do? Are they expected to run their departments as administrators, or are they expected to be political symbols moving around their states? It seems very clear that the ministers have been decided with an eye on politics and with an eye on the party more than with an eye on government. There's no question about that.
Vinod, there were already 25 ministers of state, 5 excluded, now 19 included, which means that there are 39 ministers of state now. What kind of work will they be able to be? What kind of work is going to be allotted to these 39 ministers? Because among the ministers of state, whom we have 25, which we had, we hardly knew about a few of them.
So much about governance. Maybe there are certain things which have improved. The Prime Minister found the need to promote only one Minister of State to cabinet rank.
And
if the government has done all that well,
yes,
then there were many other Ministers of State who could have been promoted to full cabinet rank, but that hasn't happened.
Or even a Minister of State to independent charge.
And then you see this large number of Ministers of State. This is baggage which every government carries. And Mr. Modi shouldn't be sort of singled out for criticism on this, because this is where you give accommodation to various social groups whose alliance you require in election time. But at the same time, one must bear in mind that by making ministers from a community, you don't really earn the loyalty of that community. For instance, that there were ministers who are from the scheduled caste. Now, there are 2 scheduled castes who have been removed. There are some scheduled castes who have been brought in. But that doesn't fetch any party or any government any loyalty from these sections, because much more needs to be done with regard to getting those people over into your fold. Congress is, BJP is trying to be a mini Congress.
Every political party indulges in
it does, but BJP
thinking that it is going to get some political benefit.
But BJP is trying to, according to me, trying to be a bit of a truncated Congress in Uttar Pradesh with the Brahmin vote and some sections of the Dalit vote, and that too Pasi votes, non-Jata votes. Indira Gandhi had done this experiment when Dalbir Singh, who was a non-Jata, was made the Congress committee chief in UP and projected as potential chief minister when Babu Jagjeevan Ram was having his Congress J separately. And I remember that after the elections, Mr. VP Singh became chief minister in Uttar Pradesh, and Dalbir Singh was brought to the center as a minister of state, No, this is not rocket science. It has not been done for the first time, what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So there is no ingenuity that I see in this reshuffle, or expansion rather, not a reshuffle.
Navin, talent, Yesterday the Prime Minister, when he was talking to a few people, said that this expansion is going to be about talent, not about caste and not about, Do you see that talent?
I don't think there is anything to do with talent. Nothing to do with talent. Because if talent was going to be criteria, then many of us will agree here that several senior ministers should be booted out from the cabinet. But it has not happened, and several people who have come in, I think they are just a baggage on exchequer. And when you talk about governance and minimum governance, so I think we all know
minimum government.
When Mr. Modi was Chief Minister of Gujarat for 15 years, I think most of the time, I think he had just 6 cabinet ministers. Whereas in other states, you have a whole lot of 30 and odd cabinet ministers. So if Modi has failed to implement the Gujarat model of governance in center, And that is not primarily because of governance. It is because he has realized now at this point of time that politically they have to reach out to other caste and community. And for that, I mean, this cabinet expansion is just a political exercise aimed at 2017 elections and 2019 the big challenge for BJP and nothing else. I mean, nothing to do with talent, nothing. I mean, the BJP has tried to give it a spin. A lot of WhatsApp messages were given, doled out to journalists and late at night. I mean, giving the background of all the ministers here and there. But I think nobody is going to digest it.
Smita?
No, in fact, actually, I think the spin is interesting because in the past, this government, I mean, if we look at previous governments, you know, in the run-up to any reshuffle or expansion, there would be all sorts of names floating around. But this time, but with the Modi government, we've not seen this at all because it's an exercise conducted by two persons, nothing leaks out. But this time, for the first time yesterday, I think a selected group of journalists got the entire list, and then there was a certain kind of spin given to it. So in the way the government is reaching out to journalists, I think that is something new. And then they used 3 words there, that these new ministers would be the embodiments of experience, expertise, and energy. And then it, you know, so there's a cancer specialist, there is a Supreme Court lawyer, there's a water conservationist. So, and then there are several of them who have been ministers in the states or they have been ministers at the center. So it's about the spin. Now, whether that spin works, and then this note also talks about how we are not going to use caste and religion and those kind of things. But at the same time, it says, you know, we believe in social diversity, which is another word for the same thing, you know, and geographical diversity. But I find it interesting that at least they reached out a day before, which is I mean, this is a very closed government, very little comes out of it, even about, I mean, even the way they think. That's also important for us. I mean, we may criticize what they are doing or comment on it, but it's interesting to understand how they want to project it. In the past, there's been very little of that.
Mr. Nalapat, how do you think it was projected? You know, this whole stress yesterday by the Prime Minister while meeting the expertise, talent, and things like that. Now the challenge is to use that expertise in the right positions, right?
Well, I think, you know, as has been mentioned here, the reality of the situation is that many of these ministers are going to be expected to go to different places in their home states. And for example, if you're coming from a group that has been socially not very well treated, you have a minister coming from there, treated very well, a VVIP. So hopefully that will make an impact that this government is doing justice to individuals who as a group have been disadvantaged. But I would agree very much with Vinod that none of this really works in practice. I mean, this government was filled with people from Bihar in 2014. It didn't help them in Bihar. I don't believe that any of these ministers from UP who have been carefully selected are going to help them.
Today there's nobody from Bihar, that's why.
Well, I can only say that Bihar election's over.
Yeah.
UP election is coming.
Yeah.
But I fully agree with this point that this kind of thing is not going to work. The only point is the Modi model, as I understand it, relies very little on administration by ministers. It relies relatively very little as compared to the Congress model.
In fact, you know, the 25 ministers of state who have been there for the last couple of years, we have heard constant complaints from them that they have no work.
Sometimes I can understand some of the 5 who have been dropped. I can understand why 2 of them have been dropped, you know. But to come to a determination on a minister's efficacy without giving him work, you know, is quite incongruous, you know. And maybe that these people are drafted for party work. You know, that option is open for the Prime Minister. But coming back to the same, you know, the thing is that, you know, Kalraj Mishra continues to be Cabinet Minister. Kalraj, and Mr. Yashwant Sinha has been made to sit out because he's 75 plus. And he was so incensed perhaps that he once said that, you know, at 75 I'm perceived to be brain dead, you know. The reality is that today the Prime Minister, in my view, very humble view, Prime Minister is the best judge. It's his prerogative. One can't grudge him that, It's his prerogative. The Prime Minister needs some wise ministers with good experience in certain key ministries in his government.
Now, that is the question. Vinod, is there that kind of talent which he has ignored at this point of? Can anybody say that there has been this talent which has been ignored?
I can tell you that there is talent, there is experience which is being ignored. I have never seen an interaction happening on a subject of on their specialization between Mr. Murli Manohar Joshi or Mr. Yashwant Sinha or Mr. L.K. Advani in the government. I don't see any formal interaction, though they are Margdarshak Mandal, What keeps a government to dip into its own experience, its own heritage, and to find out about issues which could be better resolved if their experience is shared. So what I am saying is that, you see, it's okay to have a government of your choice, but you can't patent,
Mr. Nalapat?
Well, I just want to point out one fact here, and that fact is that so far the South is concerned, and I'm from the South, I'm from Kerala. Quite frankly, representation has been minimal and remains minimal.
But that's because BJP's strength there is minimal.
No, but I would like to say that if you have a Rajya Sabha system in which you can appoint anybody anywhere as a Rajya Sabha member, so I don't think that passes muster as a reason. The reality of the situation is that in this Council of Ministers, I think the representation given to the South is almost the lowest of any government I've seen.
Among the 19, there's only one.
Exactly. And no, overall since 2014, and I think that is definitely a problem because whatever seats you're losing in UP, in Bihar, etc., the South can make it up. But today, quite frankly, representation to the South is very low in the government and in the ministry.
Okay, and Navin?
See, two things I would like to...
I want you... okay.
Two things I would like to talk about this cabinet expansion. I think which is going to play out. One, which is crucial, I think, One, what happens to the finance minister? Because I think there is a now, buzz in the political circle, and not many people like to talk about him because of obvious reasons. But I think, the Prime Minister is definitely trying to show that he is no more dependent on Delhi's power, people who they control the media and others, So I think I would like to see what happens to whether Mr. Jetli is able to. And secondly...
are you trying to say that there could be some kind of a reshuffle of portfolios? Even at the top level?
Whether he is able to retain information and broadcasting or not will send a very big message in political circle of BJP.
That was an additional portfolio which is...
So what, additional, but he was the master of all. I think at one point of time, he was having both finance and defense. So,
the concurrent charge is one thing. May I say one thing? And so long as he retains finance, I would not read much into it. Because there has been enough speculation in recent months that he may have to forsake I&B ministry and even perhaps corporate affairs.
Exactly.
Corporate affairs also.
So one will have to see whether he retains corporate affairs and finance, even if he has to give up, I&B ministry. Well, there may be another minister appointed there.
Nobody likes to give up ministry on his own.
But he gave up defense.
I don't think he gave up, or whether he was divested of it. I think that's a matter the Prime Minister.
It's a concurrent charge is not divested.
And second thing, the relations with Shiv Sena, that in the days to come is going to play out on Maharashtra politics in a big way because of the...
Whatever yesterday told television that he's going to get cabinet rank,
Yeah.
And he has to settle for Minister of State.
Exactly. Navin, one more thing.
He's only allied who's there in
Fangan Singh Kulaste. Do you think that, the kind of background which he has, the controversial background, you think...
I mean, the BJP, you talk to anybody in BJP, they say his experience. I think ever since I have been in journalism, I am hearing his name. So I think BJP has obviously counted on this fact. His name is very well known across the country, and he will mobilize a lot of votes among his section of the people.
Smita?
So that could be the criteria.
I don't think politicians bother that much about these things. And he was a minister before, so that's one of the 3 E's: experience.
No, as far as the domain knowledge is concerned, there is a Supreme Court lawyer, there is a cancer specialist, and there is a water conservationist. The question is, the question is, are this kind of talent, this kind of expertise, has it been utilized so far? Will it be utilized in future? That is the question actually. You see, this government is a single horse government. Let's understand this. And that horse is all powerful. He has got a lot of energy, and he is the Prime Minister of India. And he loves, knowing everything about the ministers and their ministries and departments. And after a long, long time, we are seeing a very powerful Prime Minister's office. Though this was criticized a lot during Indira Gandhi's time, that concentration of power in the PMO is antithetical to the cabinet system that we have in this country. But the fact remains that this country has gotten used to PMOs, and we have a powerful Prime Minister and a PMO after a long time. We didn't see this powerful PMO until Atalji's time, and that also wasn't as powerful, though Mr. Brajesh Mishra was a tough administrator.
So, yes, Smita.
Yeah, the fact is that Mr. Modi has very little talent to play around with, and since he doesn't trust technocrats, I mean, he could have brought in.
That was one thing, but it's very interesting. This question was asked to him yesterday by some journalist. He said that we have brought into the Niti Aayog. He's talking of bringing in this kind of people into Niti Aayog.
Yeah, but he needs somebody right inside, in the top 4 jobs, He needs to show some change there. I mean, because however talented Mr. Modi may be, and however energetic he may be, however much experience he might have had as a chief minister, the fact is he needs more help to make this government more effective. But it depends. If your whole focus is going to be only on winning elections because that will keep you in power, then of course, this is fine what he has done.
No, I mean, I'm sure showing performance also matters.
Well, I think it matters a lot because the country has changed. You have people who are now access to the internet, access to media. And the point is, even if you're the best surgeon in the world, if you're given third-rate instruments, you can't do a good operation. The problem we have is that we have a very rusty, rickety and corrupt administrative structure. So, in fact, people who have been following Mr. Modi have been expecting him to do reforms like bringing in 25% of people into the IAS, for example, from a lateral entry, making sure that the services are treated more equally, making sure there's more domain knowledge and professionalism in the Home Ministry, Defense Ministry. A lot of change has to take place in the administrative structure. Now, as I said, in my view, 2 years has been on-the-job training. I am expecting a lot of these changes in year 3 and year 4.
But did you expect, or did in this round of expansion, that bringing in some kind of what Smita is talking about, expertise?
Well,
in the ministry.
Look, I've tracked the experience of Gujarat, and for me, a Modi reshuffle is not news at all. In fact, I'm really surprised we're discussing all this and every newspaper, every television channel is talking about it, because for Prime Minister Modi, it's the overall administration that counts, or Chief Minister Modi at that time. So I'm now looking forward to major reforms in the administrative structure, because he is going to succeed or fail based on the administrative structure. It's not going to be these 77 ministers. It's going to be the 80,000 top administrators who will decide his fate.
Navin? You think that with this kind of a ministry, what Nalapat is talking about, he will be able to achieve?
I think if you look at things closely, Modi is not depending much on the ministers. I think the PMO is all powerful. A lot of crucial decisions are being taken by the Prime Ministers and the PMO in all spheres, whether it is a finance, whether it's a defense, whether external affairs ministry is virtually redundant because PMO himself runs the whole ministry, and I don't know why you have a full-fledged minister there. But the whole government in crucial areas, whether it's a telecom or whether it's any area, it's the PMO which is calling the shot. So whether these minor pawns which have been brought in, I think they are just going to be pawns for the king to play. But but that's all. I think not more than that.
One has to. It will be very interesting to find out
Very
as to on
quickly,
crucial
Vinod.
issues. Who is drafting the cabinet papers, cabinet notes on
Anyway,
crucial issues?
I
What is
think
the
Vinod-
contribution of the minister and the PMO?
Vinod, we
It's
don't have
interesting.
time. We don't have any more time. But this is an interesting thing. What has been discussed here. Whether the ministers, what kind of work they will get, how much they will be able to contribute, is all something which will wait and watch. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue, the big picture, same time.